My name's Emily Vanderark, and today I'm going to talk about the revision and editing process. First off, if you've completed a novel and you're setting out to revise, congratulations! You've accomplished something huge. You wrote a novel! I'm also assuming that you've written a novel that you like enough to dedicate yourself to the revision process, which can be long and hard, but it definitely pays off. Before you touch a single word of your manuscript, go back through the story and write an outline. You might be saying, write an outline. I wrote an outline before I wrote the story. Why would I need one now? Well, maybe things didn't go exactly as you planned in the course of the story. Or maybe you thought it did, but when you look back at the story now, you realize it's actually a little different. Writing an outline of the book that you've written instead of the book that you set out to write can be helpful in summarizing the story that's actually down on the page. Once you do that, determine what your book is actually about. I don't mean a summary. I mean, figure out the theme. What is your story trying to say? Try to get it down to just a few words. Is your book about misfits, growing up, finding courage, preserving something beautiful? Once you find out what your book is really about, and you have an outline summary of the story that's down on the page, try to find some books that are already published and are well reviewed or really popular that touch on some of the same themes as your story. Maybe you're looking for a book that's told from the same point of view as your novel. Or maybe you're looking for similar characters, or structure, or common thematic elements that have to do with what your story is really about. If you find a few books that touch on all of these things, you can use them as mentor texts to guide you through the review process. I have another video that's just about mentor texts, which you can find right here. Basically, you're looking at these books to see how successful authors have accomplished the same goals that you've set for your own book. After you have a better feel of what you want your book to say and how other people have successfully said it, it's time to roll up those sleeves. At this point, you are not correcting spelling, grammar, or typos. Don't do it! If you start correcting the nitty-gritty details, you're going to get attached to each paragraph or sentence that you've labored over to make it sound just perfect. That's the last thing you want to do, because the best thing that you can do at this point is look at the overall storyline. What I'm really saying is the best thing you can do for your novel when you're setting out to revise is open a fresh, blank, brand new, frighteningly white Word document and start over. You heard me correctly. Start over. I'm not saying that you should delete your manuscript and never look at it again, but I am saying that you shouldn't be rereading your old manuscript. It's really easy to get caught up in the words that you've already written and forget about the overall story, what your book is about, what the summary of the book you've actually written is, and how other people have successfully written similar books. If you keep catching yourself up on the words you've already written. Starting with a blank slate is the best way to get out a better book the second time than you did the first time. I know you hate me for saying this. I hate me for saying this. Believe me. But this is really the meat of the revision process. Revision is rewriting. When it comes to revision, a mentor that I've had says that a final draft should resemble a first draft as much as a fish resembles a bicycle. Okay, once you're done with that really hard work of rewriting, which can take months or even years, the next step is a lot easier. Now it's time to look at the individual sentences, paragraphs, and even words that you've chosen to use to tell the right story. It can be really hard to spot problems in your own writing, so I recommend a website called the Hemingway app. I'll put a link to it down below. The Hemingway app will identify sentences that can be simplified and words that can be replaced with less complex words. Clear and concise writing allows you to get the message across in a way that doesn't hinder the reader. In this step of the revision process, you're going to have to start making some judgment calls. The Hemingway app will underline everything that it thinks might be a problem, but you have to decide whether or not doing what the app says is going to improve your story. Don't make changes just because a computer told you to do so. Really critically think about each change and evaluate whether or not it helps you tell a better story. Don't just go into it willy-nilly. If you've reached this point, congratulations again. You've come as far as you possibly can on your own. Now it's time to enlist the help of some friends. And by friends, I mean readers and writers. Beta readers are people you recruit either online or in real life to read your story a chapter or two at a time. These readers will not be critiquing your writing. Instead, they'll be answering questions that you ask them about story, character, plot, if things are confusing, if characters are coming across the way that you want them to. It's really cool to see if the idea that you have in your head about certain characters and have tried to convey in your story actually comes across on the other side in the mind of the reader. Writing buddies are people who are also writers, ideally at the same level as you or above. These people can offer you story advice just like beta readers can, but most importantly, they can also critique your actual writing. In both of these cases, with beta readers and writing buddies, don't forget what I mentioned before, which is that you need to use your own judgment. There's a saying that says if you give 10 people a copy of the same book, they're going to read 10 different books, because the book they read is shaped by their own personal experiences. All of your beta readers and your writing buddies are going to have totally different perspectives, so you're going to have to use your own judgment to identify common themes. If there's a comment that you get back from every single beta reader and writing buddy, probably it's something that needs to be addressed. If you get a comment from only one person, it's probably something unique to that person's experiences that they brought to the book, so probably not too many people are going to notice it. If you've made it this far, you just might be ready to start sending your book out to agents or publishers who accept unsolicited manuscripts. You might think the long, hard work of revision is over and your book is done and it's all just going to be easy from here. And I hate to tell you, but you're wrong. At this point, your book journey is just beginning. If you're planning to self-publish your novel, this is the point where you need to hire, and yes, by hire, I mean for money, pay a professional editor to go through your book. Please do not put your work out there if you skip this step. It could really come back to haunt you later. Professional editors know what they're doing. They've edited a lot of books, they've read a lot of books, and they really know how to make your book the best story that it can be. If you're interested in the traditional publishing route, then your agent and the editor that you eventually are working with at your publisher will fill this role. I'm sure you're asking, how do I get an agent? How do I get a publisher? How do I send out my book? As a follow-up to this video, another time I'll talk about how to write a query letter. One last thing you might be realizing is that revision is hard. Now, writing is hard, and you know that. Obviously, you've written a novel. You're at this point. But revision is really, really hard. Which is why revision is what separates successful published authors from people who just write for fun in their free time. It really is worth it at the end to see how much better your completed novel is than the icky first draft that you wrote way back when. I promise it is worth the effort. Thank you so much for watching, and if you have any questions about revision, rewriting, or editing, or just want to talk about writing in general, leave me a comment down below or tweet me at I belong in a book. Cheers!